Welcome back to Nerd Rage's Screen Spot, where we talk about films, TV, games, comics, everything in pop culture. And we get to ask the one important question: is it worth it? And today we discuss Disney's The Acolyte. So Khan, tell us, what's The Acolyte about?
Stupid, sexy Darksiders. So far, it's somewhere a cross between a murder mystery and a kung fu movie, and challenging a lot of preconceptions that people have over what is the right thing to do. The Jedi in particular. I think going beyond that would be spoilers, but if you walked into here thinking things are clear-cut, good guys are good guys, bad guys are bad guys, you're in for a surprise.
Because, as we'll find out in the show, things hit the fan. The proverbial fan.
The space fan.
The space fan. Both sides. They face, or actually not both sides, various sides of the situation. They get to face some very precarious situations that result in the biggest mess of the Jedi's lives that we've seen so far. Well, until Anakin Skywalker came along.
That's
and
a
then,
whole other mess.
Yeah. So, what do you think of it?
It did start slow. It appealed to me in the sense that, oh hey, we actually see the Jedi do something outside of just lightsabers for the most part. We see an exploration of the Jedi's martial philosophy and how that applies to how they're seen by the outside universe or galaxy. Galaxy, right?
Galaxy, because they haven't gone past the galaxy. They've yet to go past the galaxy.
Yeah, okay.
As per Ahsoka.
Right. For those of you who are into kung fu movies, action movies, there's something for you there. It would be a waste if you got Trinity and didn't make use of all that hand-to-hand training, so that was great. And then aside from that, we do get to explore what it actually means for the Jedi to practice their philosophies. Because the Jedi mean well. They typically really do. We see this in the movies, we see this in the various TV series, but in this one, we really do explore, are the Jedi good guys, or is it just performative?
Or what happens to all your principles when you're faced in the greatest cluster of your lives?
Pretty much, yeah, like, are you still a good guy if you mean well and it doesn't turn out well?
Of course, people have been talking about The Acolyte for the past 6-7 weeks. Well, let's just say fans online, or half of the fandom online, haven't taken well to the show.
Which half?
I wouldn't say the better half, that's for sure.
Unfortunately, Adrian and I are Star Wars fans, so we know how bad it can get in fandoms, the Star Wars fandom in particular. Star Wars Philippines, yeah?
Yeah.
Anyway, it is a good time to be a Star Wars fan, but it's a bad time to be part of the Star Wars fandom.
Yeah. One thing that's been bugging me is all this talk about, parang, oh, Star Wars is woke. Parang, do you buy that?
No, these aren't even new concepts. These are things we've touched on before, we've discussed, told stories about. Sure, maybe if you're new to Star Wars, you only know the movies, it's probably new to you, but it's really not covering anything new philosophically or socially. And the name alone, Star Wars, it has wars in the title. How is that not politically or exploring concepts of morals or ethics and all that good stuff that we probably should every time we approach media? When has Star Wars not been woke?
Exactly. And so what if we have female characters now? We've always had strong female characters in Star Wars since day one. We've had Leia.
We opened with Leia taking charge of her own rescue. How is that not a strong female character, best female character? We miss you, Carrie.
Now, the different discussion there is, has the Acolyte been effective in telling the story? Because we can actually separate those things. Just because it's telling us a quote-unquote woke story, doesn't necessarily mean that the story is good or the storytelling is good.
Okay, approaching it from that sort of aspect, I guess my personal experience with Acolyte is so far, the story hasn't been bad. I can see why it might not be everyone's cup of tea. By the way, this is an important distinction for all you geeks out there. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's bad.
And another thing, if you think the storytelling is effective, then we can easily dissect it like what we're doing right now and pinpoint why it doesn't seem to work.
For the most part, I think this sort of thing, they went with the murder mystery thing. I feel like sticking to that formula for what, 7, 8 episodes?
8 episodes.
It's a little short for me. Admittedly, I guess it's a product of today's storytelling style. We have 40 minutes to an hour per episode. Way back when we're from the era of like 30 minutes per episode, carbon dating. It does affect the pacing because you have to figure out where you want to cut the story, how to get people to want to watch the next episode. And then there's today's storytelling style as well. Do you want to go 1 episode per week versus the entire season binge that streaming services like to prefer? And that really can affect how you see the story. A lot of people are actually saying that The Acolyte would have benefited from the binge style.
Yeah, I believe that. Because there are some episodes that are really, wow, all those. But at the same time,
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep making him do that.
there are some episodes, we have really high episodes and we have really low or slow episodes. And it's very obvious if you watch it episodically, especially if you watch it in real time weekly. But having seen this final episode, I think the show really works better if binge watched, which may be a flaw with how they broke down the entire series.
Yeah.
It may be a creative flaw that, or at least something that's perceived as a flaw. Actually, pwede siya maging 2-hour film.
It could, yeah.
Yeah.
I could easily see this as a 1.5 or to 2 hours. Yeah.
Maybe 2.5 tops, but that's too much. That's almost like Lord of the Rings.
I think this is one of my problems with it as well. It doesn't feel like it does feel more like a movie that was chopped up than a proper series.
Yeah.
So I can see where you're coming from, that it probably works better as a binge. I think the upside as well, though, to it being episodic is it does add to the mystery storytelling style. For those of you who are fans of mystery, it does that thing. It gives you a bit of clues, you try to figure it out, and you have to wait until next week, so it builds the anticipation. So, mixed bag, like I prefer episodic, AIDS likes it all at once.
Dude, MTRCB. Anyway, how many lightsabers would you give it?
Lightsabers are expensive. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10 grade. I would watch it, I would recommend it to other people, and I would rewatch it. It is not up there for me, like say Rogue One would be, but it is definitely up. It is definitely like one of my favorites so far. I'm enjoying it, and that's what's important.
Actually, 7 out of 10 lightsabers as well. Mainly because of how I experienced it so far, which is a real-time weekly experience. But I want to watch it, in one go, binge watched. I want to experience it in that way, and I still haven't. But yeah, so far it does feel like a 7 out of 10. My favorite Star Wars show is so far Andor. Andor's up there in terms of meat and content and world building.
Yeah. Interesting, like a bit more of a fanboy moment here as well. We do see Jedi do hand-to-hand more than we have before.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Sapakan.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you actually see some of the Jedi philosophy exercised throughout their martial arts of choice. It's more defensive, it is more energy, it's more controlling of the fight. You almost never see them throw a punch. It really highlights the Jedi philosophy and the Jedi mastery. Because you can't do that unless you're particularly skilled.
Yeah, this is the Jedi at their prime, during the High Republic era. And actually, yung gusto ko the very last episode, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Jedi. You can catch the Acolyte over at Disney+. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, go check it out. All right, so do you think it's worth it?
Absolutely.
It's worth it if you have nothing to do.
As with many things Star Wars.